Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Achristopats channel. I'm Pat. That's my husband, Chris, in case you didn't know. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that you give this video a thumbs up. I hope you'll hang around and invite your friends to it and all that good stuff. Today is a Q&A. It's a question and answer, so we're going to attempt to answer some questions that came in from one of our subscribers. And so this is for you, Teresa, and for anyone else who finds this information helpful. I hope you can get something from it, and make sure that you email us when you do have questions at enoughgrace12@aol.com, and we'll be glad to answer you either by email, or we may feature some of your questions here on our channel. So the first question is,
do you need to have a home base when you own an RV?
I would say you don't I would say you don't need to have a home base. I prefer to have a home base. You have to remember that your RV, whether your recreational vehicle, whether you're living in a van or a box truck or a motor, Class C, whatever, is your home on wheels. It's a vehicle. Things can go wrong with vehicles. And so for me, my preference is to have another shelter that I could go to in the event that something happened with this vehicle and it had to go in the shop. Because if this has to go in the shop, this is our 34-foot Pace Arrow. If it has to go in the shop for something, which we put it in the shop a few weeks ago, you got to have some place to stay, and they're not going to let you stay in their garage while they're working on your vehicle. So if at all possible, yes. Now, one of the things that I had been doing before we bought this was I worked on getting my house paid off, right? So I don't have a mortgage. The only bills that I have there is maybe regular maintenance, which isn't that much because I'm not there that much, or utilities when we are there. So, and taxes once a year. Now, what some people do is they will sell their home and move into a van or some type of a motorized vehicle so that they can go wherever they want to go, and they find work. Sometimes they find work that can be done online, and that's how they support themselves. And other people are able to live very cheaply, very minimalistically on their retirement or whatever other income they may have coming in. So as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to have an alternate place of residence, but for me, that's my preference. So it's really up to you how confident you feel, how good of a vehicle you have. If it's roadworthy or whatever. Like I said a few weeks ago, we took this to the shop to have a new roof put on, and they had it for a week. Well, we had to live somewhere for a week. And then, the weather's not always conducive to stay outside unless you're a winter camper or you don't mind getting drowned in rainstorms and stuff like that, being in a tent. So it's really a personal preference. Okay, so next question was.
Uh, well, I'll just flesh that question out a little bit further if you like. As you know, if you followed our channel for any period of time, we purchased a piece of property. We were looking ideally for a piece of property with a creek. This property does not have a creek. And a piece of property which already had services existing on the property, so we didn't have to pay for all the sub-trades to bring in the sewer, the water, and the power. So we have sewer, water, power, we have high-speed internet, blazing fast high-speed internet here. And the price of the property was very inexpensive. Of course, it's out of the way. We're nowhere near a large city, and we're about 45 minutes from a town of 120,000 or so. So we have all of the amenities that we need a short distance away by driving, but we're basically in the country, and we have altogether about 3/4 of an acre, which means that who gets to mow 3/4 of an acre on the regular. So that, even though that isn't a drawback, and anytime we want, We can pull the slides in, lift our jacks up, and away we go. If you do not already own a home, if you're living in an apartment or something like that, purchasing an RV, it could be a little bit problematic because you need to have a place to park it. And there are restrictions, depending upon the size of the RV you own, as to where you can park your RV. So that bears a little bit of planning and checking things out in advance. But when we had it in to have the roof recoated, we could have just stayed in a motel because there were motels in the town where the roof recoating was done. However, we did have another residence at which we could stay. So
The other thing that I wanted to add about having another home, independent home, is if you're not in a position where you want to sell your property, you don't have to. When we first got this 6 years ago, we did not sell. We have another place in Canada and we rented it. We just rented our place. And because we weren't sure whether we were going to really like life on the road or not, it's a 2 bedroom. And what we did was we locked off one of the bedrooms and we used it for storage and we rented it as a 1 bedroom. And then we said we're going to hit the road and, travel for a year or whatever, see if we like it. And if we do like it, then we'll come back and sell everything and rent that out for passive income. So, that's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. And then the year before this weird thing hit the world, um, we had thought about buying our own land and all that. So we did. And yeah, the services were here, but we did have to have some things moved around. So that cost us, but we got it situated the way we wanted it. So what I'm saying is you can either sell your property if you want to, or just rent it out. Maybe short term if you're not short something that you would like to do long term. You could maybe rent it out on a 6 month lease or even a 3 month lease, depending on where you are. We put our property in the hands of an agent, a property management company, and they take care of everything. If there needs to be an eviction, they'll take care of that. We had to do one eviction, and we
long
did
distance.
that. We did it long distance, yeah. Then we went back to make sure they were actually gone, and they were. And so, but we haven't had any problems. The tenant that we have now is a very good tenant. We have no problems. We've had no complaints
Nope.
from him and no complaints about him.
Nope.
So we just, we're just enjoying our life the way it is. But yes, we do have another property. But again, the bills are what we make it, right? We're not there a lot of the times. We spend most of our time out here on this property in this, even though our other home is our permanent resident address. So anyway.
Moving along, question number 2. Is it difficult finding resting spots, summer or winter?
It depends on where you are, and it depends on what kind of vehicle you're in. You can do stealth camping, which is mostly done in cars or Class Bs, which are vans. You can't stealth camp in an RV unless you're in the woods or out in the desert, and then you don't really need to be stealth because there ain't anybody else there. But it's not. It depends on where you are. You can be in some states or cities that make it very difficult to park. They some places have made it illegal for you to live in your vehicle, which is just, to me, that's just an overreach of power. It's your vehicle. If you want to live in it, why can't you? That's just, I don't even understand the logic in that. That's like telling me I can't drive my car when I have a valid driver's license. So, I don't understand that. Different different jurisdictions like to get real power hungry and ignorant. So I don't know what to tell you about that. Anyway, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, we are not unlike a lot of other RVers. We really enjoy what they call boon docking. In other words, while you're in town, you fill up your fuel tank and your water tank, you dump your black tank and your gray tank if if your vehicle is equipped with those. And then you go off out into the countryside and you find a nice looking little place and you park up and you stay there. Now, there are a number of overseer agencies that deal with that. There's the United States Forest Service. There are the state forest services. There's the United States Army Corps of Engineers, which maintains dams and levees. There's an overarching agency called Bureau of Land Management. And if it's not a national park or an Indian reservation or a city park or a county park or a military reservation, large swaths of land are all administered under BLM. All BLM land, unless it's posted, is free to park for 14 days. Going back to the 1930s, they put in place Okie laws, which we're currently in Oklahoma, but it was designed so that people didn't just camp and stay. So after 14 days legally, you do have to pull up your stakes and move 25 miles before putting your stakes down again. But that's not really heavily enforced. So there are a great number of people who spend a large portion of their time on BLM lands. And there are, within the BLM, there are certain designated long-term vehicle areas, and you can get a pass from the BLM. Now, I'm not current on the rates, but it used to be $130, but that's from the middle of September through till the middle of April. That entire span of time, $130. So it's like, what, $1 a day? Less than $1 a day. 87 cents a day to stay. We have boondocked before in an area that's quite expensive to stay, where our other property is up north. And we ran the numbers, and it turned out it was costing us $6.74 a day to stay. And that included our propane and our gasoline for the generator and gas to run the rig, et cetera, et cetera. And we were very comfortable. The library was a block and a half away, and we had a little scooter. I'd scoot off to the library or scoot over to the adventure center and gank their Wi-Fi because they were providing it free. And the grocery store was, 3 blocks away. We stayed there, all summer
like
pretty
6
well.
months, almost 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
$6 a day, and the $6 a day was the gas that we were using to go get more propane.
Yeah.
That's what. So it would cost us about that much to go. We would go every week to dump our tanks and to refill our drinking water.
Yeah.
And it would cost us. It averaged out to about $6 a day.
Yeah.
So,
which is a pretty good price when you compare it to some of the rents. I know that in the area where our place is up north, it's about $2,100 for a 1-bedroom apartment.
So $6 a day ain't bad.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
I do want to say something else about free camping. In the BLM land and some other places like that, they are narrowing where you can stay, and the reason is because, unfortunately, there's been some campers that are very irresponsible, and they go out to these places, they set up their camp, they make a big mess, they live like pigs, and when they leave all their mess behind. And it costs the state or the government a lot of money to go out there, to send people out there, because it's a huge swath of land. They have to go out there, drive around all these acres, just looking for junk to pick up, and then they have to haul it back to town or to the local dump somewhere or whatever, because a lot of people are irresponsible and inconsiderate. And so I do want to say that, right? It's if you're going to consider camping on BLM land or something like that, it's a good idea to check in with an office first where you're going to be. Whichever office is responsible for the area that you're thinking about going to, check in with them and see, is that place still open? Because you don't want to get out there and then in the middle of the night you get a ranger knocking on your door saying this land is restricted, you can't stay here anymore. Yeah. The other thing is, when this craziness hit the world last year, when the craziness hit the world last year, there have been a lot of people, a lot of businesses and things that shut down. And so people felt like, I can't pay my mortgage or whatever. So they just went ahead and sold their house, or they went into foreclosure
Yeah.
and moved into their vans or their cars, or they bought high top vans. Some people just sold their house and said, "Why am I working a 9 to 5?
Yes.
And most of my money is going to make somebody
Somebody
else
else.
can pay their bills."
Yeah.
I can't even enjoy the house that I have a 30-year mortgage on the way. And they got sick of it.
Yeah.
And I can see that. I would probably have the same feeling if I were paying a mortgage, but I'm not, right? And my utilities are what I make them. So, it's not a problem for me. And my house doesn't require a lot of maintenance at this point because we've had all the major stuff done. The sewer line's been replaced, the water line's been replaced, the roof was replaced, the heater was recently replaced. Well, the last 3 years, the water heater was replaced, and those are your pretty much your major expenses.
The windows.
Yeah, the windows were replaced about 7 years ago, and so there's no big overreaching expense for me.
That's right.
But like I said, just if you're thinking about boondocking or camping somewhere, just make sure you call ahead of time and make sure that that place is still available for you to pull up on. And if you need a pass, then secure yourself a pass so that they're not running you off in the middle of the night. So,
And a lot of our travels, what we found is that Club Walmart is great. When you pull in, you pull to the edge of the lot, the far edge of the lot. What we would do is we would call ahead to a Walmart in the location where we were going to be, ask to speak to a customer service manager. When you get them on the phone, say, "Do you still allow overnight RV parking on the edge of the lot?" And they'll say yes, on the north edge or the south edge, or and the thing is that don't abuse the privilege.
right.
Park, stay overnight, shop at the store if you need supplies, and then pull out in the morning. There's no point in moving into the Walmart parking lot because believe me, people have tried, and that's the reason why a lot of them are saying, "I'm sorry, we don't do that anymore," because people were abusing the privilege. The other thing is that if you've done any camping before, if you pack it in, pack it out.
Right.
There's all kinds of garbage containers along the way at the gas station or a coffee shop or at the Walmart. There's a place to dump your trash and leave it cleaner than you found it. If there's trash lying around where you are, police the area up. Use your rake, clean it up a little bit, and take it out with you. Be a good steward of the land, and you'll never run into problems.
And the other thing is, some Walmarts. Well, Walmart is not the only place that'll let you park there. Cracker Barrel is
Yep.
friendly toward RVers. A lot of casinos are.
Yes.
If you go in and buy a meal or whatever and let them know you'd like to stay, just find out if they have a cost or not. I believe Cabela's.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Bass Pro. Um, there's other
Yeah.
places, that will let you overnight. What I do want to say is make sure that if you're going to park in a public parking lot like that, don't take a shower and behind your vehicle and pull out your camping chairs and all this. This is not a permanent resident for you. This is just some place where you are passing through. You stop to get groceries and patronize them.
Yeah.
If they say, yes, you can park on the edge of our parking lot, go in and buy something. Pick up a quart of milk or buy some bread or something like that so that you're not just using them and freeloading and taking advantage, right? Even if you just buy a donut, do something, a stalk of celery,
Yeah.
buy something, to let them know that you appreciate
Corn
them,
dog. Get a corn
allowing
dog.
you to, ew, he said, don't get a corn dog. That's disgusting. But, just to show them that you appreciate them allowing you to do that. So, and also, when you do call ahead of time to find out if it's permissible, ask to speak to a manager.
Yeah.
And get the name of the person you spoke to.
Write it down.
Write it down so that when you do go to park there, if you get a knock, you can say, I called at such and such a time and I spoke to a manager by the name of, right? And then you can work it out from there. They might say, well, they shouldn't have told you that, but I'll let you stay.
Yeah.
Or, oh, okay. We pulled into a Walmart once. the lady did not tell us that there was a specific place we had to park, even though we parked behind the building because we were trying to stay out of the way
Yeah.
of all the other shoppers and everything, and because we tow a van, right? So we wanted to make sure we didn't have any problems getting out in the
Yeah.
morning. And we got a knock on the door from the security telling us we couldn't park there. We said, well, we spoke to so and so, and they told us to park here.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, but there are no cameras here. We can't, we can't secure your safety if we can't see you.
Yeah.
And they said sometimes they
Let's
have
just move it over on
vagrants that come up through this area, and we want to make sure you're okay. So we want you to park over where the trucks park. And we said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it was brighter. We were trying to stay out of everybody's way and all that. It was a little bit brighter because those lights were there and the cameras were there. But it was okay because we knew, first of all, they're watching us, so that we felt safer. And second of all, they let us stay.
Yeah.
They didn't just say, well, she shouldn't have told you that, you have to go.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Travel plazas, where the trucks pull in to refuel, etc. They're generally a good place to park. But you've got to be able to fall asleep with noise.
Yeah.
A lot of those trucks
They
idle all night, or they run their generators or ACs all night. So you've got to be prepared to put up with a little bit of noise to disturb you. And also, you have to have good blackout shades in your vehicle because the lights are usually very bright for safety purposes. In the state of Texas, any of their rest areas beside the highway, you are legally allowed to stay for 24 hours before moving on. And there are a lot of other states that have those provisions. Up in the northwest in Washington, pretty well every rest area also has a sewage dump. So you can make use of those if you have to,
The other thing I wanted to mention about truck stops is some do not allow RV parking. They only allow trucks.
Yeah.
Because those companies have contracts with them. I believe truck stops called the Flying J is one. They do not allow RV parking. You have to be a truck. And so don't just pull into any place where you see trucks because they will run you off. You'll have to ask.
Right, right. The next question is, are there special RV motor parks and how can I find them?
Don't know what you mean by special. It depends.
They all think they're special.
It all depends on what you're looking for. To me, there's a difference between an RV park and an RV resort. Some of the resorts, they might have a golf club and, golf course and all,
Pools,
big swimming pool and
exercise rooms,
stuff for the kids to do and all this kind of stuff. That's a resort to me. I've seen so-called RV parks that was nothing but a cement slab with no shade and everybody just parked right next to each other. Well, that's a parking lot.
Yeah.
They might call themselves a resort, but it's a parking lot on cement. So I don't know what you mean by special. You'd have to be a little bit more specific, but it just depends on what you're looking for. To me, the best option is to have your own land. Even if it's just a small patch of land that you can park your rig on. So
there are a number of resources that are available for you to find these places. If you're into staying at a park, which we are not, the last thing we want is to be cheek by ruddy jowl with people all the way down along the way. And what that does is that kind of fosters a sense of closeness, that people tend to be close to their own family, right? Because there are so many other people around them. We'd rather be in the great wide open where it's us.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like, the reason that we don't like RV parks is not because we're antisocial, but it's because we're antisocial. I mean, we like people, but we don't want to see you every day. We're just not those kind of people. So we like the quiet. We like being off by ourselves. We have not been to the desert camping. That is not that's not something I think I would enjoy. Yeah, me and dust. Yeah, no. I don't even like dust in my house. I don't want, no. So I prefer the forest, where there's trees and birds and
yes,
ants.
You can probably hear the birds chirping away outside, actually.
But I'm not real keen on desert camping. So
there are a number of apps available You know, when they say there's an app for that, yeah, there's always an app for that. One of them is called RV Parky, Parky. One is called Hip Camp. If you're hip, you can camp. One is called Free Roam. One is called Free Campsites. And there's a new one that's just come out, and it's a fee-based service, which is called, what is it? Farm Hosts.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, try and look it up under farm hosts or something like that. And there are a number of farms and wineries and whatnot that subscribe to this service. Now you have to purchase a subscription to their service, but these are all across. There's maybe 3,000 to 4,000 of them across the states, where you can pull up, and they're hoping that maybe you'll buy some produce or sample their wine or what while you're there. There are a number of services which we use, and when you have it on your phone, it's simple. You just pull off to the side of the road and you check and you say, "Here I am here. What's here?" And it'll show you the complete range of what's available. One of the people that I follow on YouTube recently took a trip down to the Gulf Coast. He left his rig at a park and drove down in his car and stayed in a motel. His motel was $38. There was an RV park just down the block from his motel, so he went in there to inquire. Yeah, it was $80. We're not those folks.
Yeah, a lot of RV parks are. I figure if you're spending $30 a day, and you may not even have sewer dump, you may just have water, or you pull into these places and you have water, but they want to charge you for electricity plus your $30. It's in some places it really is a racket, and it's not worth it. And so if you can boondock or camp somewhere for free, why not? That's what I say.
Exactly.
Just make sure, like I said, if you go into these parking lots or stuff, or these store or restaurants, that you patronize their business, because this is not a service that they have to offer to the public. They do it because they want you to feel welcome, and they want you to come in to their restaurant and eat.
Yeah.
Even though we have everything, absolutely everything we need on this RV. We have too much stuff in
With
this
the
RV.
exception of a washer and dryer, but we've got those over at the house, so.
And we don't need a washer and dryer. If we travel, we'll look on a map and we'll see, what town we're going to next. Do they have a laundromat? If they don't, does the town before that have a laundromat? We'll stop and do our laundry. Here we're about an hour from the house, and we'll just, once every couple of weeks, we go home and do laundry, fill up our food, and come back.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
We do have interesting experiences along the way. We've stopped at a number of laundromats and talked. We get to talk with the townsfolk that are in there doing their laundry, and sometimes you get more of an earful than you bargained for. One lady was busy complaining about the town council, and her husband was like, "Stop talking about, stop talking.
Stop telling strangers all of our business."
And it was a lovely little town, too. It was up in Ohio.
And she was not happy.
She was not happy about it. And another laundromat we stopped in Bozeman, Montana. And we stopped in a laundromat up in Binghamton, New York. There's always a laundromat around somewhere. So you do need quarters, but your clothes get clean all the same.
And one of them was expensive. I was like, man, we should have just hung this stuff outside. But they were, I can't remember where that was. That was ridiculous. Oh.
Well, we did some laundry in Vienna, and it was about $35 or $40 to do two small loads of laundry.
I know, we didn't take the RV to Vienna.
No, we didn't.
We flew in there. We flew into Vienna.
Yeah. So there are numerous opportunities for you to camp without paying. However, if you want to be sandwiched in with all the rest of them, you can do that too. It's probably going to cost you $40, $50, $60, even $70 a night. What are some estimates of maintenance, oil change, gas usage, price to fill one?
It depends on the size of your vehicle.
Sure does.
And the size of your gas tank. As far as maintenance goes, the average cost is whatever you want it to be. And the reason I say that is because if you know how to do a lot of your own mechanical work, it'll cost you a whole lot less than paying somebody else for man time, man hours working on your vehicle. And it also depends on what type of maintenance has to be done. Changing the oil is not a big deal. Chris usually does that kind of thing. We check the oil and the fluids and all that kind of stuff before we go anywhere. We have not had to replace any tires as of yet, but we will probably have to replace some soon. And I don't know what that'll cost. They ain't cheap. That much I know.
They're not cheap.
We
The
had
bigger
our
your rig, the less cheap your tires are.
we had our now we do have insurance, and also, having insurance on your vehicle helps. It's not going to take care of your regular maintenance, but if something catastrophic goes wrong, for example, we had a stone bruise on our windshield when we were traveling, and we called the insurance company and let them know that we had a crack in the windshield that came from a truck, blew rocks up on us, and the crack was traveling. So we called our insurance company and let them know, and they called a glass repair place and authorized them to get the work done for us. And so we took it there and they did the work, and there you go. And then thank God that's not, we dropped the vehicle off, I think, that time.
Yeah.
We did take our vehicle to Fleetwood, this is a Fleetwood vehicle, and they were absolutely no help. They actually made things worse. So, yeah, I don't recommend that.
But they charged us $400.
They charged us $400. They wanted to charge us something like $600 until I showed them that they made the job worse. And they couldn't refute that, but they did spend 2 hours making it worse. So we paid them for their 2 hours to make things worse. But anyway, because they weren't going to let us leave if we didn't pay them something. But anyway, as far as maintenance goes, if you keep up with the things that need to be done, depending on what your vehicle is, and it also depends on what condition your vehicle was in when you got it.
Right.
Right? If you do an overhaul on your vehicle when you first get it, make sure you don't have any leaks. If you're going to buy the vehicle knowing that it has had leaks, then you want to go ahead and get it all sealed up again.
Right.
Before you put it on the road. Make sure your water heater works. Make sure your refrigerator works. We've replaced our refrigerator twice, and we've replaced our water heater twice in 6 years. And the last time was when we had that really bad deep freeze this past winter, and something weird happened with the water heater, and we pulled it out, meaning he pulled it out, and then I thought, you know what? I don't know if this thing is going to work or not. So we ordered another one. In the meantime, we tested the old one, and it worked.
Yeah.
So it was just a screw loose or something.
Yeah,
but
connection,
a loose connection. But we had already ordered the new one. So I said, well, forget it. We'll just put the new one in, and we sold the old one as used. It just depends. It depends on if you keep your oil changed and all that kind of stuff. Your vehicle, if it's already in relatively good condition when you get it, should last you a while.
One of the things about RVs, which is so surprising to me, is that a lot of people, let's say Joe and Jane, old guy, finally retire, and after dreaming and saving for years, they buy themselves an RV, and they set off, and they usually get one big trip, maybe two, and then that's it. Then one of them will go into care, or one of them dies, or whatever. And the depreciation rate on RVs is simply huge. This one, when it was new, cost well over $100,000. And when we purchased it, it was a fraction of that price, and it had 35,000 miles on it. So it's basically just getting broken in.
And now it has.
And now it has 47,000 miles
Yeah.
on it. My gosh, it's really getting up there.
And we did take it from Canada all the way to Maine.
Yep.
And then came back through Texas, stopped in Oklahoma, and then went back to Canada.
Yep.
So, it runs fine. We didn't have any breakdown problems or anything like that. The only problem we had on the road was that stone bruise. So on the windshield. So I didn't want to get sucked out the windshield. So we had to get that fixed.
You were asking about the cost of gasoline as well as maintenance. Well, for starters, with the maintenance question, if you do a little bit of elementary maintenance, changing your oil, I've been in the auto industry before, and I know that the cheapest insurance that you'll always have on any type of vehicle is just to do the
Regular
regular
maintenance.
maintenance. As long as you take care of the regular maintenance, your vehicle is likely to last you for a very long time. And it's when people ignore the maintenance. I had people come in and they said, my low oil light is on. I said, okay, well, let's get that taken care of. I go and pull the dipstick to check their oil level. You can't see any oil.
Oh my gosh.
So you put it back in, and then you put in a quart of oil, and you check it again, and it's up to the add oil line. And you put in another quart of oil, and you check on the oil again, and you're back into the area of safe between low and high. And you say, well, how old is the vehicle? Oh, it's new. We just got it. And then you take a look at the odometer, and it's got 50,000 miles on it. And then I said, well, when was the last time you had the oil changed? Well, we've never changed the oil. It's just if the light comes on, we add some more. See, people like that. You don't want to buy that vehicle. Trust me when I tell you, you don't want to buy that vehicle. One of the things that really works well is if you're not mechanically inclined and you see something that you want, get permission from the owner to take it to a mechanic, not their mechanic. Take it to a mechanic and say, listen, I'm considering buying this vehicle. I'd like you to just check it over and tell me what you think. And he may come up with a few defects. Okay, you've got one tire that's looking a little iffy. You know, you should probably change that tire, or it needs brakes or whatever. But you'll get an honest answer from an honest technician as to what's actually wrong with it. And that factors into your purchase considerations. You say, well, the mechanic says it needs brakes, and the brakes are going to cost me $300, so I want you to take that off the purchase price. But usually you can find very low mileage vehicles, or relatively low mileage vehicles, for a fraction of their original purchase cost. This is 34 feet long. So with the rig and the tow dolly and the van, and we used to have a scooter hanging on the back of the van, we're up around 56 or 57 feet long, so we're not going anywhere fast. We leave lots of following distance, and when we're passing through a city, you're just basically idling, somewhat in the vicinity of the speed limit, a little lower than that. But the maintenance costs can be very reasonable. The fuel cost, the bigger you go, the more it's going to cost you. When we're towing, we're getting about 6 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, not very good mileage, fuel mileage at all. So that's why some people are opting for much smaller vehicles, or moving into their high top vans and stuff like that, because they get a lot better mileage than we do. We haven't been traveling as much as we normally would have been because a lot of places were closed.
Yes.
You know, I guess they figured if you pulled in, they might catch something from you. I don't know, but they were closed, and so since we had our own land, we just spend most of our time out here. It's like being in the park. Yeah. We have 9 lots here, so and no neighbors. So there weren't a lot of places to go. I had someone ask me the other day, it seems like your RV is just sitting there. Do you ever move it? Yeah, we did. But there, a lot of places were closed. So, here we are. But this is fine for us because if we want to travel, we can. You just have to make sure you call ahead of time like you would a hotel. If you're going to an RV park, to find out if they're open yet. Do they have some kind of restrictions? If you're sitting outside at a campfire, do they want you to wear a mask? You know what I mean? If you're 3 or 4 feet or 3 or 4 spaces over from someone else, do they want you to wear a mask? I'm not. We don't RV and camp to have those kind of restrictions on us, right? So we would not even go to a place like that. So there you go.
We're more footloose and fancy free, and a lot of these frou-frou bourgeois high-priced parks, they won't even let you in if your rig is more than 10 years old.
Yeah, and that's something else to keep in mind. There's some places that you will not be able to get into. There's some places that will ask you to send pictures of your vehicle before they give you an answer. Because if it looks all raggedy and broke down, they have an appearance that they want to maintain, and so they don't want you coming there, with your ghetto self, in their RV park. So, they want pictures. Let me see it before you come. No, you ain't bringing that in here, or whatever. So, also there's some roads that you can't travel on if you're too long.
They're usually posted.
Yes.
They're usually posted. No vehicles longer than such and such a foot. When we took the rig to get the roof coating done on the way back, we stopped at a city park I had inquired, I phoned about the city park and I said, I noticed that you have some hookups there. I said, can you tell me how much is it to stay? And they said $5 a night. We stayed for 5 days.
Yeah.
And we were down underneath the trees near the lake, and it was beautiful. There was nobody else there. How do you maintain the bathroom? Question mark. Disposal?
Yes. We have a typical RV toilet with a black tank, and we use it every day, just like you would your regular bathroom. And we dump our tank, even though we're sitting on our own land with our own sewer line and all that. We still dump our tank once a week,
Yeah.
as if we were out somewhere boondocking and had to do that.
You can't leave the black valve open.
Yeah, don't leave your black don't leave your black valve open. You may be able to leave your gray tank open, depending on the weather, but don't leave your black tank open because you'll get what they call a pyramid. And all that waste will just start piling up, piling up, piling up, piling up.
And solidifying.
And solidifying because there's no fluid to wash it into the tank.
Yeah.
Right? Or out through the sewer hose. So, yeah. Now, what I like to do is after we dump our tanks, I have a big white pail or container that I use.
Like a dishpan.
Like a dishpan. One of the things that I do is after I dump the tanks and I put the chemicals in, then I'll put like a cup of dishwashing liquid and some water softener to make it easier to clean. When we traveled and we knew we were going to need to dump our tanks, right after we dumped them, I'd put all that in. And then when we went to go move to our next place, by the time you got finished at the end of a week, moving around, you've given your tanks a pretty good scrubbing out with the dish soap and all that kind of stuff. And when we would get to the next place and dump, I would just take that white pail, fill it up with warm water or cool water, and just pour it down the toilet. And that was really just to flush the hose out.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing with that, to keep the hose from having all kinds of waste material stuck in the grooves of it. So I would just take, 3 or 4 pails of water, sometimes with more dish soap, and just pour it down the toilet and flush the black tank hose out like that. So
a lot of older ladies who are traveling prefer not to use the black tank or the gray tank. They use a smaller, more convenient method for them, and then they can dump it on a more frequent basis, or a composting toilet, or the luggable loo, in which case you line it with a plastic bag, you use it, you tie off the bag, and then you toss it.
just like you would if you had a dog
Or cat
that you
or
were
something.
walking,
Yeah.
and you had to pick it up out of the park and, put it in a plastic bag and dump it. Some people just do that. They use disposable, biodegradable bags in their luggable loo, and when it gets full or whatever capacity they feel is comfortable to get rid of it, then they just tie it off just like they would dog waste or cat waste, and they get rid of it like that. So it just depends on what your preference is. The thing is, with the composting toilet, you still have to dump the compost somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not, the sky is not the limit. There is a limit.
Yeah.
And when it gets full, you're still going to have to dump it somewhere. So it just depends on what type of toilet you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that the last question?
That was pretty well the last question, and we thank you for putting your questions to us. We have been living in our rig for about 6 years now, so we've run into a few of the more interesting questions along the way. But keep in mind that YouTube is your friend. If you're thinking of hitting the road, and we would encourage that, look on the YouTube for vehicles that you are similar to what you want to use. We have a Dodge minivan, all the seats fold into the floor, and we're talking about putting a mattress in there so that we can do shorter trips in the vicinity. All the way up to these great, huge 45-foot forest slide monsters with awnings and every jacuzzi tub and an espresso maker, all the mod cons, as they say. But whatever fits your personality as far as traveling is concerned, remember that you're among a legion of people who are enjoying life on the road, and we would encourage you in that.
The other thing, the last thing that I would add would be that there is a difference between wilderness camping and urban camping. And so when people are trying to urban camp, they want to be as inconspicuous as possible. If you put, if you get a van, even if it's a high top van, and you decide you're going to put an air conditioner on top, you're going to have solar panels and all that, you're pretty much not stealth.
Nope.
The police will know, everybody else will know that you are literally living in that vehicle. And like I said before, depending on what state you're in, some places have made it illegal for you to live in your own vehicle.
Yes.
Now, how that's possible, I don't know, other than the fact that the people living there allowed that to happen. So, but when you're out in the wilderness or you're in a park or something like that, then it's different.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for your questions. I gotta sneeze. Oh, okay, it went away. Anyway, thank you for your question. And if you guys have any more questions, make sure to send them in. Please give this video a thumbs up. Leave your comments below if you have any more questions or if this video helped you, if you liked it. Please let us know. The comments and the thumbs up is what helps to keep our channel on the air. And we'd like to stay here as long as you would like to have us here. So we'll see you guys the next time we come on. And
remember,
keep tripping.
Keep tripping.